It's time to hit rewind. We're looking at 4 inspiring Brooklyn apartments. Get ready to see how brutalist design can feel cozy, how to solve a tricky layout with clever DIYs, and how handmade pieces can tell a personal story. First up is Emily in her 525 square foot apartment. This space is a beautiful example of balancing heavy and light, using brutalist inspiration to create a calm and cozy home.
Hi, I'm Emily. This is my 525 square foot apartment in Brooklyn, New York. I love living in Brooklyn. I've lived here for 4 years, and I joke with my friends that I'm never leaving, and I might actually never leave. For work, I design events and experiences, which means a ton of work. I never work in my space because it is home, and it's a place to hang out and feel so relaxed and comfortable. I love when I have it really, really cleaned, and I come home to the most clean and neat and cozy space that is mine. My biggest bit of inspiration in designing my apartment was this idea of heavy and light at once. Objects that look heavy but have a lightness to them because they're magically floating or something. This window is one of my favorite things about the apartment. It acts as a conceptual border between my living area and my sleeping area, but it doesn't actually block any sunlight. Brutalism is an architectural style that can be seen in a lot of places around the world. There's this real weight, and then the weight sort of gives way to this whimsiness or lightness. My kitchen is probably the best example of the brutalist design inspiration. I worked really hard to keep the lower half of the kitchen dark and then the upper half of the kitchen light. And one of the ways that I did that was by choosing to not have any upper cabinets in my kitchen, but rather open shelves on one side, and on the other side, no shelves at all. So it's just a wall of tile. This is my desk nook, where everything's always a little bit of a work in progress, depending on what I'm reading or working on. It's an area of my apartment that's really dense to counter the areas that are really empty and minimal. I also have under the desk a flat file, which is something that I've always wanted as a way to store and organize a lot of different things. I've been collecting paper since I was a teenager. I have a huge jewelry collection, both because of passion and hand-me-downs from family members, and I love being able to open the drawers and just see everything all at once. I love my view. It's something I didn't have at all in my last apartment, and I really cherish it here. My favorite thing about the view is that I look down on a quote on the side of a building by Biggie that says, "Spread love, it's the Brooklyn way." But the part that I can see best from my apartment is just spread love, which I love. When I lived at my last apartment, I lived really far from my friends, and I lived in basically a basement apartment. Putting a lot of love and energy and money into this apartment, I've learned that I really value alone time. And I've only discovered that through giving myself a space to actually have that and want to have that.
Next, Kayla shares her 375 square foot space, showing us how to conquer a tough layout with smart feng shui principles and creative DIYs, like her scarf-wrapped paper lantern.
Hi, Apartment Therapy. I'm Kayla. Welcome to my 375 square foot apartment in Crown Heights, Brooklyn. I lived in a lot of different apartments throughout my time in New York City being a native, so I've seen it all, from basement apartments to just apartments that generally just wasn't really getting a lot of light. So when I walked into this apartment, I knew that the place had a good energy, and I knew that it had the bones for me to do anything that I wanted to creative-wise. So this is my living room. This is probably the most energetic place in my apartment. I play music. It's really an entertainment space. I think that's why it was really important for me to lay out the couch the way that I did, is because it allows movement around this area and also separate it from the rest of the apartment that might need a bit more relaxed energy. My biggest challenge in this apartment truly is the layout. I flipped and switched and revamped this place 1,000 times before I settled on a layout that truly works for me. And I would have never honestly thought I was a terracotta girl. It was originally white, and then I painted it gray, but I knew that the gray just wasn't me because I needed something a little more spicy and warm. And I actually was in the process of having a paint partnership with a company called Lick. I went on their website and I found this really awesome, warm, dusty orange color, and I did one wall and never looked back. Style is, I think it's in my bones. It's Brooklyn. Brooklyn has a certain je ne sais quoi, and if you've been here your whole life, you definitely just embody that, and so simply. The rug, as well as the chandelier, came from a company that I used to work for called Lulu in Georgia. My dresser is a Thomasville dresser. I scoured Facebook Marketplace and I found this dresser for $100. The coffee table also is a Facebook Market find, and I love it because I don't have all the same type of monochrome colored wood, so it's really important because this kind of shows every piece of wood. It's also marble and glass, which helps bring out a lot of the textures that actually show up in this apartment. My bike was also a gift from a Black community organization called Goodco Biking Club. And then next to it is also my plant that I found in Bed-Stuy. She's grown almost close to 10 new leaves since I've had her, so she's definitely flourishing. I think she's really happy. So my kitchen, AKA the most interesting DIY and the smallest, most used space of my home, has been a project, to say the least. I was a bit nervous when I moved in that I wasn't going to be able to function in this space the way I want to and cause me to eat out. However, I've made some of my bombest meals and fried chicken meals in this apartment. It really carries a lot of soul, and it makes me feel powerful because I can do so much in such a small space. So over here is my bedroom, and I really wanted to create a simple, cozy nook in the apartment. It's the hardest wall in my apartment where I probably can never drill holes in. However, that's the perfect place for a bed in the language of feng shui. Your bed should never face the door, and it should always be on the most solid wall in your apartment. So I had to really think about the way I wanted to feel when all the lights off are on this apartment and how safe I needed to feel in the corner of this room. My light fixture is an IKEA lantern. It's a paper disposable one, and I needed it to feel more like warm, unique lighting. So I decided to bring in the scarf that I wasn't using that often and really add color and warmth to this fixture, and it became one of my best DIYs. The name of the wallpaper is Strawberry Thief. It really acts as like a bind for all the other colors in my apartment as well. It is from Lulu in Georgia, but the collection is William Morris & Co. When creating this workspace, I do work from my desk every day, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, but it's important for me to keep a simple space to work from. I intentionally make sure my screen isn't ever facing my bed because I never want to just have that energy flow into the same space. The desk comes from Facebook Marketplace, and it is kind of like a lacquer shiny top, so it does get scratched quite often. So I lined it with this wallpaper from a Walmart collection that Apartment Therapy actually had. I believe it was the Drew Barrymore collection. So I put it on my desk, and it definitely helps from protecting from scratch and scrapes. My workspace is simple. It's a desk, it's a chair, it's a lamp, and I can turn off my work life whenever I need to. Through this apartment, I found a greater sense of community. I lean into my neighborhood harder. My neighbors and I have a group chat, and we really just keep each other grounded. We share a lot. If I don't have a vacuum or a drill that I could just ask my neighbor, it goes back to like generation of ancestors and how we leaned on each other for resources, you know, and Crown Heights is also just that special place for me too. Another challenge when I first moved in here was definitely storage. I do have one closet, and it could have been a drawback, but like I said, I'm a girl that loves a challenge. I have a good eye for hiding clutter in the secret places. Under my bed, I have like 6 cans of paint under there. I have 2 large 32 pocket shoe pull out under there. One of my favorite, not talked about enough parts of my apartment is my bathroom bathtub. I'm a person, I love bubble baths on a Sunday after like unwinding from a week's worth of movement. So one of my other really secret sauces in this apartment for organization is my over-the-door closet. I saw it on Apartment Therapy Shop Talk, and it has been a game changer. When designing this apartment, having a dining room table was something that was a non-negotiable for me. I love sitting down and eating with people. I feel like it's one of the most intimate moments that you share with people. So behind the table, you'll find that it's basically the front door. So this apartment doesn't really have an entryway, and that is something that I was a little fearful for when I first moved in. But I knew that I would just have to really find the right pieces. This table is from the 1930s, and it originally was used from an artist called Olivia Kahn. So it was really important to me to leave this piece the same, because I hoped that this piece just brings me good luck in my creativity and that her soul lives in it forever. A sacred place in your home, for me, is a place that makes you feel like you exist in the world. It's a place that you can go back to when you need to remind yourself of who you are and the impact that you've had on other people and the impact that people have had on you. I have a few crystals. I have a small Buddha. I have my bib from my first race that I ran, and one of my favorite quotes in the world that I've had with me for a long time. The quote is by Barack Obama. Focusing your life solely on making a buck shows a certain poverty of ambition. It asks too little of yourself. Because it's only when you hitch your wagon to something larger than yourself that you realize your true potential. If I can offer you one piece of advice, it would definitely be to lean into your story. Growing up, I was adopted from a very young age, so a lot of my life I experienced a wide array of housing insecurity. And entering homes where the home was temporary, or entering home where you couldn't be your best self, you had to condense and make yourself really small. So I knew when I had the opportunity to, when I grew up, that I wanted a home where I can truly unleash and just be whoever I wanted to be, whether that's like get up in the morning and put a wig on, or get up in the morning and make an elaborate breakfast just for myself with no one telling me I couldn't do something. So being told no a lot in your life makes you really wish and long for the moment that you can make a yes for yourself. My adoption is my superpower. It's why home means so much to me. It's why I give myself the space to be. That's why I enjoy living alone, because I truly have gotten to know myself more than I ever have in my entire life. So home means three things to me. It means safety, it means stability, and it means soul.
And here's Andrea welcoming us into her 380 square foot home, where her nostalgic and whimsical style comes to life through handmade furniture and treasured objects full of stories.
Hello, my name is Andrea. Welcome to our 380 square foot apartment in Brooklyn, New York. I would describe my style as nostalgic and whimsical. I love objects that have a story to them. So anything that comes from a friend or comes associated with a memory. This is our living room. We have our meals here. We like to sit in our little nook and read. Love to play games when we have friends over. And this is also my primary workspace. This shelf right here is my first foray into woodworking. I've always really loved the look of old P.O. box stores. This reminds me of that rush that you get when you know you've received a letter or a postcard in the mail. So this one is in Spanish, and it's a recipe for a pisco sour cocktail, which is special to us because it reminds us of the time that we lived in Peru. This right here is our bedroom. This is where we sleep, and also where our baby sleeps now. I really love to make things with my hands. The bench in our living room, the storage bed in our bedroom, all the shelves in our bedroom as well, the ladder to reach our little tiny library shelf, which I already also put in. In terms of woodworking, that's all I can think of, but I also love to paint and I love to sew, and I really should have lived in a different era altogether because none of these things are technology related. So yeah, I just love to craft things and make things. I think things that have a story to them, it just makes them so much more interesting. And a lot of times because maybe there's only one of those things, or you don't know how many of those things exist anymore. And just the idea of treasuring something for a long time, and the fact that it has survived for a long time and is still around, is just really cool in and of itself. I guess there's something kind of romantic about it to me.
And finally, welcome to Natasha's 750 square foot apartment. Working with this pre-war architecture, Natasha shows us how to bring a coastal bungalow style to life with light colors, natural textures, and smart layout choices.
Hi, Apartment Therapy. Welcome to my 750 square foot home in Brooklyn, New York. So this is a pre-war building that has, fortunately, a lot of the original character to the home, including moldings and parquet floor, but there's also some downsides, like the floors are slightly slanted. So you'll notice that, and it definitely creaks when you're walking around, but I think that just adds to the charm of living in an old building. The interesting thing about this apartment is there isn't a clearly defined bedroom space. So prior tenants actually used the living room as their bedroom. But when I walked in here, I did not want to do that because I did not want to sleep by the street or hear the noise from the front door, which is right by the living room. You really can hear everybody coming in and leaving at all hours of the day. So I decided to switch it up, and I made this front room the living room, and I put my bedroom in the back, which is interesting because there are no doors on my bedroom, and it is also right adjacent to the kitchen. But I like it. It's great because I can wake up in the morning, I see straight through to the living room and get that light. And during the middle of the night, if I need a glass of water or midnight snack, it's 2 feet away. It does make it a little awkward when you have company over, because if they're going to the bathroom there, I can hear everything and see everything, but that's okay. That's the quirks of living in New York City. So when I knew I really wanted to stick with this coastal bungalow style, the way that translated was light colors and certain textures. So linen, jute, rattan, even some stoneware. And all of my big items in my apartment, I kept very neutral and white so that I could layer on top of that other pieces of color. I'd say the one dominant color throughout all of my rooms is blue. It reminds me so much of my childhood living in Florida and the Cayman Islands. And I also looked for furniture and shapes that were reminiscent of the coast. So for example, my coffee table, I really liked it because it has the lighter wood and the white stone. And it also reminds me of a surfboard, but not in a very obvious way. So I thought it was a great touch to include something coastal without being overly coastal. When I moved in, my top priority was figuring out the living room. I was originally thinking of putting my desk over by the window because I thought this would be a great way to get some natural light, people watch while I'm working. But what I realized was if I put it in that corner, my couch would have to move up significantly. And so as soon as you're entering the room, you're like stepping into the couch. And it just didn't work with the feng shui and all of that. So I decided to move my desk still in a corner where I can see outside, but in a much more natural fit, and gives me more space when you walk into the room. The most surprising thing about the living room that people love are the windows. Because one, the ceilings are 13 feet high, which in New York City just feels like such a lucky thing to find. Also, Madison loves to people watch out of the windows. Okay. What was it? Oh, it's a pink balloon. Do you see a pink balloon? Classic Maddie. I think people are also surprised that there are 2 fireplaces, non-working fireplaces, but 2 fireplace mantles in this apartment. One tip for mantelscapes is pick a color palette that sticks to 1 to 2 colors, but then also to vary the heights of things on your mantle so that it kind of follows like a mountain range. One thing I like to do is add something natural to the mantle. So it could be fresh flowers, it could be a plant that you have, it could even be like sticks or shells, just a natural element to kind of infuse with any man-made art pieces or decor that you have up there. One of the things I really love about this apartment is it has this middle room that I sort of used as an entryway, a place to hang up my keys, my dog's leash, but it also doubles as a dining room. I decided on a circle table so that you would have the maximum amount of room around it. And then for the bookcase, I wanted to use something tall, but not too wide to kind of just display items, but really wanted to use the wall space there in a nice way. I wanted to incorporate more storage through this credenza piece and through baskets where I'll put most of my most frequently worn shoes and a lot of Maddie's toys. I don't have a lot of stuff on purpose, so that has also been very helpful for living in New York, just limiting the amount of things I purchase and need to store. So welcome to my bedroom. I decided that I would really like to use my bedroom as a place to kind of display my most favorite art pieces. So I worked actually with my dad on a gallery wall when he was here visiting me to hang up some pieces that I have, and he even painted a watercolor for me, which is a nice touch and reminds me of my dad every time I look at it. So one of the things I really wanted to do was change out the light fixture that was in my bedroom because it was not cute when I got here. And I got this really awesome one from IKEA. You've probably seen it all over Apartment Therapy. So once I had that, I wanted to get a smaller side lamp that kind of matched that vibe, and found this one very cheaply at Target. And I thought they really worked well together. Welcome to my kitchen. It is a traditional New York City style galley kitchen, which means it's extremely narrow and not a ton of counter space. When I moved in, the storage unit was already here, as well as the shelves. There were actually 3 shelves, but I took one down to kind of simplify the space. And the brackets were black, but I painted them the same color as the wall to help them disappear into the wall and look more like floating shelves. And I decided to style my shelves with some of my favorite kitchen objects and things that I've picked up from travels. And then I decided to include a lamp in my kitchen because I think it's fun to have a lamp in your kitchen. So this is my bathroom. I really love it because it is pretty big for a New York City bathroom. The tile is this jade green, which I thought about covering but decided not to, and just really leaned into the green and white moment and paired it with this piece of art that I already had that kind of went with that. One cool thing about this bathroom is this nook here where I've decided to use the shelf to put my towels and some other bathroom odds and ends, and then put my hamper in this really nice space. It just fits perfectly. Cool thing about this building is there's actually a washer dryer in the basement that the residents can use for free. So that's really nice. My parents, they moved to America in order for us to have a better life. And like within one generation, I think that they're able to see that fulfilled in their children. And while I don't own any property, I think the fact that I was able to make it on my own here in like the hardest city potentially in the world and live by myself, I think this is what they probably dreamed for me. I did not grow up with money, is basically what I want to say. And I think it could be like easy to look at this and think that I did, but just worked really hard to like get a good education, get a good job, and like kind of like work my way here. And I know that even that is a privilege. Like that is not the case for a lot of people. And I work in education to kind of use my skills to help everybody in this country get the education that they need and like have opportunities in life.
Whether it's for quiet comfort, curating personal history, finding safety, or building a new legacy, these tours remind us that the why behind our design is what truly makes a space feel like a home.